Chris, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Justin? How you doing? Excited to be here.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before I hit record, but I booked you on the show, and then I was like, wait, I gotta watch this reality show that you were on, right? And so my wife and I sat down and in 3 nights finished the show, right? And it was like the first time where I was like, I actually really like this quote unquote reality TV. So talk a little bit about like what made you decide to even go out for the show.
Yeah, so I mean, I started a beverage company in 2019. I had a finance background. Went to business school. I went to Penn. Had no idea what I was going to do with that degree. I mean, that's a degree that typically just kind of ships people off to like consulting firms and investment banks in New York. And I was like, yeah, it sounds great, but I kind of want to do something a little more interesting. And I ended up starting this beverage company with a classmate of mine. Spiked coconut water, basically like right at the height of spiked seltzer. We were doing coconut water version instead of seltzer water. And I've been doing it for years. One of the cool things about being in the consumer being in the consumer, I would say, industry, and especially having a co-founder. My co-founder was hardcore operations, finance. He was kind of like crossing the T's, dotting the I's. I was doing marketing and sales. So I got to do a lot of really fun stuff. Like, I got to travel, sell the product, but I also had I had a partner who could cover for me, right? So I started I started getting recruited to interview for reality TV shows, actually based off of a dating profile. Believe it or not, they're very resourceful in terms of the way that they find people. And I actually was asked primarily to do dating shows. Never really liked the opportunity. It wasn't a good fit for me. One of them was like to be with a high school ex of yours, and I was like, I don't have a high school ex. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have a high school ex. I was like extremely nerdy in high school, so I don't have one. And then I actually went through in 2023, really long casting process for Big Brother, really long. And Big Brother has a gauntlet of a casting process, right?
I
So
bet.
I made it right to the end, didn't get it. At that point, I said, all right, this is a fun lark, but I'm not gonna do a reality show, right? 2024 comes around. We had started supplementing our business income with consulting income, so the work was really picking up. And one of my old casting directors, the one from the high school show, actually kind of slid back in and was like, I think I have the right show for you. It's a strategy show. It's with a really big streaming service. We can't tell you which one it is, but it's red and black. Like, and it's going to be basically $1 million, and we're not going to tell you anything else about the game, but you're competing for $1 million. I was like, okay, just like print my boarding pass out. Just tell me where to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how long was the recording? Because it seemed quick.
Yeah, it was super quick. I mean, we were there for under a month.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so obviously you get on this show and you don't really know the rules of the game. Tell the people listening who haven't watched it yet, kind of the rules of the game. And then I want to get into your strategy and your play, because you're the only person who knew who the millionaire was all the time. I'm just throwing that out there. You're literally the only person. But
I was the only
talk
person, right?
talk a little bit about the game and then your strategy going in, not knowing what to
Yeah.
expect.
Thank you, Justin, for so kindly pointing that out, by the way. I don't often get credit for that. But yeah, so the strategy of the game is basically it's 12 strangers arrive at it's called like a lakeside mansion with no understanding of why we're there. We're greeted by the host, who tells us that in each of our rooms, each of the 12 rooms that we are assigned to, there is a wooden box on our bed. 11 of the boxes are empty, and one of the boxes contains $1 million. This happens on the first night that we are in the house, right? The millionaire, the person who receives the money, we refer to them as the millionaire in the game, can keep the $1 million at the end of the show if they can maintain anonymity, basically, and survive until the end of the game. So their job is to basically kind of act as if nothing is happening, and our job is to hunt them down. There are other things in the game. So, for example, the millionaire has certain advantages they can unlock by performing secret missions. If we catch them performing a secret mission, we can vote them out, right?
Yeah.
And also we get clues about their identity that help us identify who they are. At the end of every round, we sit down for a candlelit dinner, usually an exquisite, like Michelin star quality dinner, and basically hash it out around the table. We vote somebody out. They put their box on the table and they open it up and they show us what's inside. So either we voted somebody out who's innocent, or we voted the $1 million person out. At that point, the next morning, the process repeats. So everybody gets a new box on their bed. Somebody else gets resorted with the $1 million, play on until there's one person left. And that person at the end of the game gets to keep the $1 million and go home with it.
Yeah, it's wild. So talk a little bit about your strategy, because obviously you probably took some of your entrepreneurial spirit into it, right? Reading people, understanding the room, all that type of thing. What types of things from the entrepreneurial world did you bring into that home to help you get as far as you did?
Yeah, you know what's funny too, Justin, is I really thought going into this game that I would be more of a logical player. I thought I would be good at aligning alliances, understanding the numbers of sort of like what's, in these games like Big Brother Survivor, you always want your alliance to be in the numbers, right? You want a bigger alliance than the other alliance so you can kind of vote them out with more votes. I thought I'd be really good at sort of like that social maneuvering side. What I surprised myself with is that I actually think my intuition in terms of reading people's tells is what enabled me to be able to find the millionaire more often than I didn't, right? And to always, all three of the millionaires that were in the game when I was there, I was able to identify who they were at some point. And what I did was I relied on a piece of basic psychology that I sort of believe in and I've heard throughout the years, which is that if you, if you lie, right, you will do anything you can to avoid sort of confronting the lie straight on and speaking the lie straight on. You'll sort of speak around it, right? So the core lie, I guess the base of this game is, oh, I don't have $1 million in my box when you do, right? So
Yeah.
what I notice is that people who had the $1 million, they would sort of just ever so slightly skirt around it. They would say
Hmm.
something like, oh, like they, for example, asked to accuse somebody else or formulate a theory as to who it might be. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Who could it possibly be? They don't offer up theories because in doing so, they're directly lying, right? So I noticed those people were a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more quiet, and a little bit more shifty. And actually, I just relied on that. And as I was going through the game, I felt like I was getting better at noticing their energy change, right? So the last millionaire I was in the game with, sat down with her after our boxes were reopened, and I noticed an immediate change in her. So I was reading, psychological tells, but I did also have another strategy as well, which was alliance play, right? Like Big Brother and Survivor, those are sort of the core reality shows
Yeah.
that I grew up watching. Those games are just like pure alliance based for the most part. So I said, if this game does turn into just absolute anarchy and people voting out popularity contests, and we don't care who the $1 million is until the end of the game, I need to have an alliance, right? The alliance kind of evolves organically just based on who you vibe with. I just needed to make sure that our numbers equaled whoever was left in the house plus one in a lot of cases. And
Yeah.
that was really the strategy, was meet everybody, figure out who you vibe with, get them aligned, and vote in concert with them in most
What
cases.
what do you think your death nail was? What was the thing? Was it lying and saying you voted for Sydney? Is that her
It
name? That's her
was.
name, right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, for those who've watched the show, they know that one of my allies was a female, same age as me, also single, and a lot of the house thought that we were, romantically involved, but we were an alliance within the larger alliance. I, in the prior dinner, had voted for somebody who I knew was the millionaire, and we had just learned that the millionaire was acquiring a power called the kill shot, which could send you home with the stroke of a pen. At that point, I was just worried about survival, and I didn't want to go one-on-one head-on with the millionaire because I knew she had the money. So the other person who was about to get sent home was Sydney, the woman in question, and I lied and said that I voted for her. She was my closest ally, and from that point forward, I actually frayed my alliance. So the alliance that I had formed the backbone of the game on fell apart with this move. It was a calculated gamble, but for me, looking back on it, it was easily the wrong move. I wish I could have done just about anything else going back. I'm like, I watched that back screaming at the TV, like Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar, right? I'm like, no, no, because from that point forward, not only did that tank my own game, but as it got later in the season, Sydney got left out in the final four without people who supported her, and it got her sent home too. So it was sort of like the mistake that really started to peel away our alliance. And then actually after I left, the other two main people in our alliance went home on the same dinner. So it was like from that point forward, it had evaporated just about everything that I had built. So yeah, it was definitely the wrong move. I still think like we were actually in fear of the thought that maybe the millionaire would just get a kill shot every round.
Sure.
And that was what I was basically like. No, the number one thing I had to do was survive. So I'm going to try to avoid the kill shot. And it was just the wrong decision.
Yeah, obviously, I mentioned to you before we hit record as well that I'm friends with a number of people in that from the reality world. Like I'm friends with somebody from Love Is Blind, like all these things. How was your edit? How do you feel they edited you? Was it a good portrayal of what it was actually like in the house?
Yeah, I think for the most part it was. I mean, obviously they play up the romantic aspect of my alliance with Sydney. It was an alliance first and
I was like,
foremost.
he's shooting a shot right here on national TV.
We definitely had fun. We definitely had fun with that aspect. But to be honest with you, like there was also real life things occurring there. Like she had just ended a relationship in her real life. I knew that, so we were just more or less having fun with it. I do wish that I had been a little bit more tactful about it though, because I think that the way it was perceived by especially the other male members of the house kind of damaged my credibility a little bit because we were insistent to people. I mean, actually, there are scenes of this in the show as early as episode 4 when that storyline started to take hold of like this is an alliance. We're both playing a game. This is strategic value for both of us. We were insistent upon it, but everybody kind of looked at her and they looked at me and they're like, nobody believed me. Nobody believed. And I was just like, guys, like, I promise you, but nobody believed me. The audience doesn't really believe me either. I had a reason for that alliance, which is that I kind of saw her as an end game player. And I wanted to be tight with her for the end game. And I wanted to be tighter with her than the other people in my alliance because, things like Big Brother, Survivor, if you're like third or second string in an alliance, you oftentimes get clipped at the end of the game. So I'm like, if we're going to be in an alliance, I have to be at the top of the alliance, or I have to at least try to be closer with like somebody who I think is an end game player. And I was like, Sydney is amazing player. She wins all the challenges. She keeps evading elimination. So like, let me see if I can like establish a relationship there that will help me in the end game. And, I mean, I would love to have seen how that would have played out if we had made the final four, which we were really just a couple of boneheaded mistakes away from achieving.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and we won't say on the show who won if people want to go watch the show. But I was surprised because they were kind of a non-player, right? Like they
For sure.
weren't totally involved. And again, I don't know the inner workings. We only know the
Until
edit.
she was called this player was called upon to make the moves necessary to win. She was one of the quieter players in the house, and honestly, the quieter players in the house did quite well. In a lot of cases, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. But everybody is challenged in the game, and this winner was faced with the sort of like fundamental challenges that this game asks of you, and she rose to the occasion, big time, like big time. And actually, like I watched it back, and I obviously knew what happened after I left the house, but I didn't know necessarily the details of how it happened. I was super proud of her for the way that she played because I know sort of what she was like and what she was saying at the beginning of the show, and just to see her evolution over the course of the game, doing the things necessary to win $1 million, like challenging yourself, growing. It was an awesome story to follow her arc over the course of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk business with you and talk entrepreneurship and doing those
Yep.
types of things. Obviously, a lot of people think in the entrepreneur world, like, right, screen time is important, exposure is important. That's why people do podcasts. That's why people do all these things. Have you noticed so far a shift in your business or the attention driven towards you that could end up helping your business just by being on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is I'm in a really, really crowded space. I mean, consumer, especially not just consumer, but beverage and especially alcoholic beverage. I've had these moments, right, where since I entered the space, I realized how low the barriers to entry are. Really, to get, let's say, like a D2C product and beverage out, there is still like in beer, there's still a second tier of wholesalers that control access to market. That is like a difficult barrier to entry. But to get something like liquor based to a consumer, you can do it. Like if you can find canning space, you can canning line capacity, you can do it, right? And I was driving up and down the Jersey Turnpike, which is where I'm from. I think we talked about this, right? Driving up and down the Jersey Turnpike, and I thought like every other billboard that I saw was an alcoholic beverage, and I was just
Yeah.
like, that not only is this like a premium for attention, it's dominating in terms of this, like, okay, major corridor between two of the 5 biggest cities in the United States. Every other billboard is an alcoholic beverage. I was like, I just don't have the money for that. Like, we don't have the capital intensity in our business to be able to achieve that. But in order to move product off the shelf, people got to know who you are. So how are they going
Yeah.
to do it, right? You could try to go viral. You could, do a bunch of guerrilla marketing stuff. You could run a bunch of samplings. They're pretty cheap. But I will say, reality TV, a lot of people watch it. I mean, 40 million people watched our show week one. So yeah, definitely an increase in attention, increase in fan base and notoriety. Those are all things that I was hoping to achieve. And, beyond just the business value of it, it's just really cool to meet people that are interested in what I'm doing. And like, I don't know where my business career is going to go from here. But the fact that people saw this show, resonated with my personality and how I played this really hard game, and they want to be around for the journey wherever it might lead is incredibly endearing to me and incredibly gratifying.
Yeah, that's amazing. And obviously, when we look at the alcoholic beverages right now, like it's all celebrity driven, right? Like, I mean, I feel like every main celebrity has some sort of liquor, right? The Rock, Matthew McConaughey,
Yeah.
like all these guys. And it is about how do you get more exposure? I have a friend who, the reason I asked about your client in Virginia, I have a friend out of Virginia who launched a beverage
Yeah.
company, and so they're just really getting started. It's called Patriot Beverage.
Cool.
But it's definitely a tough market. What other strategies do you have going forward? Do you plan on getting more screen time? Do you plan on getting on any other reality shows? What's your plan?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm in this world and Netflix kind of has this like ecosystem, let's say, where they're kind of spinning up these all-star shows of people who have been on, other shows and are established personalities rather than first timers like Million Dollar Secret. We were first timers. I'm extremely open to doing that. I mean, it was for everything that went into it, the greatest experience of my life, bar none. I would definitely do it again. Yes. One of the things that I think we potentially want to do is, potentially create a new product that can be shipped globally. I think that most of the fan base that we've recruited is actually OUS. Really hard to do alcohol, and we
Yeah.
have establishing relationships with certain ingredient providers in the coconut water space that could allow us to do something that we could ship to folks in India and the Philippines, places where a lot of our show is huge in Brazil.
Interesting.
It's one of the number one shows in Brazil. So, I mean, it's right now there's nothing I can do for them. But we may have something like that in the future. And then the other piece of it is I do want to create some content around entrepreneurship as well. Help people do it for themselves. For me, the process was far from easy. I've been very honest and open about this with people. Like, the process of launching a beverage over several years and the financial struggles of doing it brought me to my knees. Like, it was a brutal process, and honestly, like, not something that I would sign up for again. And I counsel most people to really think about the challenges of entrepreneurship before they go into it. I want to do what I can to help people make it easier, whether that be creating content around what it actually looks like, talking more about the struggles and like the mental and physical toll that it takes on you. And try to create some sense of community. Because one of the things that I did when I started my business was we had a founder call with my fellow business school classmates who had also started companies. It was once every month, 1 hour. And it was the best hour of my month, every single month, because you're talking to people who are in similar place to you. It makes you feel like you're not alone. And when you're an entrepreneur, you can feel alone, as you know. So it's a lonesome journey sometimes, and I want to make it as palatable as I can, do what I can to help, because this is a great blessing that I've gotten this platform, and I want to give back. That's like the only thing that matters to me.
Yeah, to me, community is number one, right? So I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for 8 years. Lots of ups and downs. The first business really focused on me public speaking, and also I host a live event for entrepreneurs, and that was a lot of my income. And then COVID hit, right? And so here we are, all that went away. And I really had to take a step back and go, okay, I need to find my community. I joined a mastermind, hired a coach, and reworked my entire business. I now run my own mastermind of 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs that we help each other, right? We push each other. Like, I'm so glad you touched on the importance of community, especially in entrepreneurship, because it can feel lonely. What are you doing now to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people?
God, that's a great question, Justin. Because one of the things that you kind of guard yourself against here, right, is that when you go from, I mean, on March 25th, the day before our show launched, I said to myself, like, this is the last day that everybody who's in your life is genuine and you don't have to question their intentions, right? I'm ultimately, at the end of the day, it's sort of a feel thing, right? And you have to have your guard up a little bit. I have a great support system. I value the people in my life. The people who have been by my side through the downs, and now they're here for the ups of this show and what may come from it. I have a great family. When it comes to evaluating, whether it be business relationships, things like that, I just go into it with an inherent sense of like elevated, valuation, and just like, what is this person's motivation? Do they want what's best for me? Like, do we have a shared sense of morals and values? And try to approach it from there. But I'm still pretty new in this game, right? I've only really started to receive like business inquiries, say the last 3 weeks. People who saw that I was a business owner on $1 Million Secret and they want to do business with me in some way. So I'm still new to it. I mean, if you have any tips, let me know. I mean, if anybody listening has any tips, let me know. I'm still learning. Very, very new to this game.
Yeah, man, and it can definitely hurt you, and we'll talk offline. I'll tell you a little bit more in detail about some of the relationships that I have and what they've kind of been through from the exposure you get from reality TV. But the reality is, man, like it's a journey, right? Like it's really about what's the next right step. So I want to ask you, like, what's your driving factor now? What drives you to keep going after seeing the hardships, after the ups and downs, after all that stuff? What's your driving factor?
Yeah, I mean, for me, at the end of the day, my passion, I kind of found my passion over time. My passion isn't beverages. My passion isn't, reality TV and being famous and stardom and all these different things. Like, that's never why I pursued it. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm really enjoying it. But for me, what I found was entrepreneurship as a key to unlock a better life for yourself wasn't necessarily all that I thought it was going to be because I didn't have the right community in place. I didn't have the right expectations about what it would be. And I think some of the like noise and content out there about, like instant success and entrepreneurship and all this, it just sort of skewed my expectations. So what I want to do is use my platform to help like create a dialogue around doing this in a way that maintains your physical and mental wellness, right? Like when I read about statistics about founder mental health, founder suicide, all these sorts of things, they break my heart. And I want to do what I can to try to help create a more sustainable pathway for people to achieve their dreams of business ownership and not make themselves miserable in the process.
Yeah, that's huge. Like, one thing I tell people when they're shocked, I work 2 to 3 hours a day and I'm making more money than I've ever made before.
Yeah.
And it's because I realized like in this race, right? Like I'm 40 now, but when I was a young man building a business, I was working sun up to sundown and you just keep going. Right. And so I think that that's such a key thing to hold that space for people. And let them know, like, hey, there is a way that you can build a life and fit your business into that life versus the other way around. Because the mental health stuff is real, man. Especially as men, I think we're told from a young age, like, go get the money, go get the house, go get the girl, go get the car, and then you'll find happiness, right? And that's just not the case. And I'm friends with some people who are worth $1 billion, and they made the billion and went, what now? Right. Yeah. Like there's an emptiness from that race. And it's just so true, dude. So I want to ask you a question that I ask every single person on this show. It's a 2-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? Right. We just talked about what society says success is, but what's your definition of success? And the second part is, what are 3 things you do every day to ensure that success for yourself?
Oh, this is great. This is a great question. I mean, I can tell why you ask it to everybody. For me, I noticed that success for me did equal happiness and fulfillment. And those 2 things are basically equivalent in my mind. Like, yep. It's not a dollar sign. It's not making it on reality TV and seeing millions of people watch you chase after money, right, on Netflix. It's, am I enjoying my life? Do I find purpose in what I'm doing? And is it fun for me, right? And when my business was struggling, I think our hardest year was probably 2023. It was our hardest year. Right. As our business sort of went down and seltzer started to decline, I found a little bit more time to actually like reacclimate with some hobbies to kind of take my mind off it. And I noticed that I was the happiest I had been, happier than I was when we were really successful in 2021. Right. Yeah. So I found that I was I built a more balanced life. I was more in tune with my fitness. I was more in tune with my family relationships. I had refound some hobbies that had always kind of filled my cup. And I felt like my life was more balanced, even as my business was somewhat struggling. So 3 things that I do, talk to family, focus on moving my body, and sleep well. Those are the 3 things. Those are like core tenets of my life, like stay rested so you can perform well, move your body, and maintain my relationship with my family.
Do you have any crazy like sleep routines? So I'm friends with. She's like the top 5 sleep coach in the world. Her name's Molly, and she's crazy. Like she's like, I turn off all my lights at this point. I got red lights on. I got the blue blockers on by like 8 o'clock at night or whatever. What do you do to make sure you're getting that good night's sleep, especially as an entrepreneur when you're stressed out all the damn time?
Oh, I know. So the main thing is sleep mode on the phone at a very specific time. For me, it's 9 o'clock at night. Sleep mode, notifications go silent. I try to go screen time, but like maybe 30 minutes before bed. Like stop it. No matter how much you want to run one more episode of $1 Million Secret, guys, like it'll still be there. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. Maybe keep watching that show, get us the numbers, and then everything else you stop at 30 minutes before bed. And then I like a big convert to magnesium. It's like it really has improved my sleep quality. Super dark, super cold, and my sleep quality is as my sleep quality and like the focus that I put on sleep. Because I mean, like any entrepreneur, I had the period where I was like sleeping 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, right?
Yeah.
It ground me down real quick. And now that I do, try to shoot for 8 hours a night, my quality of life has improved drastically.
Yeah.
And my business is still okay. So
yeah, I always say fill your cup first, right? Like the one big takeaway, because I've done 560 plus episodes over the last 9 years on this podcast, and that question that I ask about the secret to success or your definition of success and the 3 things you do, I realized the 3 things everybody did, no matter who they were. Like I've had Bert Kreischer on the show, like they've all shared these things, right? And I go, well, what's the common thread here so I can put it into my life? And it was all to fill their cup, right? It was all self-driven, right? Whether it be working out, meditation, prayer, whatever the case may be. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. We're supposed to take care of ourselves. And what overflows from our cup is for everybody else. It's such a key thing that so many, especially young entrepreneurs, miss, that there's so much more to life than just running that business. And it's huge to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, you think about like it's kind of like a energy exchange in a sense where like if your output, is going to be X, you kind of have to put X into the machine too. Like you need to have something to give in order to create the types of lofty things that you're going to shoot out to create.
Yeah.
I think as a young entrepreneur, you totally overlook these sorts of things. I did. I mean, I think most people probably do.
Yeah.
So, that's what I say is like a lot of my advice and the things that I'm going to talk about, they come from a place of I did it wrong the first time.
Yeah.
It's like a
dude,
lived experience.
That's how we learn, right? Like, I didn't fail. I learned a lesson, and now, you're able to kind of move forward from that standpoint. So let me ask you this, talking about forward progress. I want you to fast forward to the end of your life. And I want you to imagine that everything you've created has been wiped off the planet. The show doesn't exist. The beverage company is not around, all these things. And you could only be remembered for one sentence. What would you want that sentence to be?
I would want my life to be measured by how I made people feel around me and the impact that I had on other people. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I it's funny. I think certain aspects of the way I was portrayed in $1 Million Secret make it seem like I'm selfish and, arrogant and things like that. I really am, I'm very, very giving and loving in my life. Like I really am very focused on being a good brother, being a good friend, being a good son to my parents who've given me everything. Right. And ultimately, those relationships are the measure of myself as a man to me. So that would be like my own legacy is, did I treat people well and how do they make them feel?
Yeah, to go to an Ivy League school and then not choose the conventional route and start a beverage company, which comes with all the stresses and everything else, and your parents still support you. That's great parents right there.
It's funny. I talked about my parents a lot on the show. None of it made it into the final edit. But I'm grateful for them every day. And actually, it's funny. It's like you only realize these things as an adult, right? How much when you're a kid, you rebel against everything. As I've gotten older, I realize just how incredible of people my parents are and how much they put up with for me over the years, right? Like going into debt to start a beverage company off of a Wharton MBA when I could have just gotten like $500,000 a year to go work in banking, flying off to Canada to film a reality show and not really telling them any of the details. And now, millions of people know their son's face. Like those are things that I don't know if the average parent would sign up for those things. And they've never really given me anything but support.
Yeah. Are you getting recognized on the streets yet? Have you experienced
All the
that?
time. All the time. Yeah, all the time. So, I mean, it's funny when the show first came out, it was pretty slow, but it's been out for a month now. So I think a lot of people who like put it in their watch list have finally gotten around to it. So it's happening like about daily at this point. And I've started to get good at recognizing it. I love those interactions because if you look, especially for like an online personality, probably 50% to 75% of the interactions online are negative.
Yeah.
But in person, 100% of the interactions are positive. And I'm always just like, I just want to, like I said, I want to lead that interaction where that person walks away and says that was a valuable interaction, right? Like I'm interested in what they thought about the show. I'm interested in what questions they have. And honestly, I'm just really grateful that they took time out of their day to watch us because this is a project for us. Like it's funny. We just flew to Canada and played a game. That's what I told our castmates. I'm like, everybody knows who we are now and they have all these questions and they look at us differently because we flew to Canada and played a game. There just so happened to be cameras there. So the fact that this has now become cultural, belongs to the culture, is really gratifying to me. I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And by the way, that house is ridiculous.
Yeah, like 12,000 a night is what I was told to rent it out. So
I don't make that kind of money, but
we'll hopefully have some friends and we can split it just to get one room. I would love to go back there where I'm not stressed out of my mind. That would be nice. That'd be a nice trip down memory lane.
Yeah, were you stressed 24/7?
Absolutely. I mean, we all were. I mean, what's nice about it is we didn't have our phones. The phones were signed away when we got there, so we were totally locked in. I talk about like flow state as an entrepreneur. Yeah. I achieved flow state. Everybody achieved flow state. Like we would finish these 15-hour days of filming, go back to our rooms. You're basically locked in, right? Because you can't go talk to other contestants at night. Get a notepad out, start writing up strategies for the next day. Like you're not focused on anything else. I had a book. I finished the book pretty quickly. You're totally locked in, but you're really stressed because you're aware of the fact that everything that you do is going to be watched and picked up. I didn't know $1 Million Secret was going to be this big, but I knew it would be watched. Like I knew it would be debated. You don't want to go home early. Nobody wants to go home early. That's like the number one thing is you don't want to like fly all the way out here, put your life on hold, go home in the first episode. So everybody's really stressed about that, right? Like at this point, once we've identified somebody we're sending home, everybody's like, sure, as long as it's not me, I don't care. And then, you have to have really hard conversations in our game. And it felt like it was basically wake up towards the end, especially be like, all right, go have the hardest conversation of your life and then go to a different conversation. Now you're going to top it. Okay. You're gonna have a harder conversation. Oh, by the way, the cameras are all around you. They're going to be picking up how you conduct yourself and what you say.
That's crazy.
So we were super stressed. I mean, everybody was super stressed. And that's why I think in our game, like everybody complains, everybody was crying the whole time. Like once the emotional dam broke for me about episode 4, it was like permanently down. It was just like pure raw emotion. And I don't know, like most people in our game cry at some point. And it's a super raw emotion.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, all these things you're saying, right? Number one, we can all agree that although it's a necessary poison, cell phones and social media are a poison, right? Like they're the constant distraction. They're the thing that keeps you from being in flow, all those types of things. But even the importance of being vulnerable and feeling your feelings, the phone allows you to numb that stuff out too. But when that's taken away from you and you're literally forced into 24/7 stress, everybody's going to break without a doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of our contestants, Phil, when he's eliminated, he's walking out of the house. He says, I felt all the feels, right? He's talking about good emotions and bad emotions all at the same time. Like I think about, like the famous Jimmy V speech at the ESPYs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Laugh and cry. And it's one other thing. That's a full day. Right. Like that's what it reminded me of is we had moments of like pure joy, elation. The whole thing was elation, really, just to be there and like to have had the experience, but also really hard moments that now millions of people have watched us experience. It's a broad spectrum. So I tell people I felt the full spectrum of human emotion. And that was why I tell people it was the greatest experience of my life, because like, what a joy to be able to have actually had an experience like that.
Yeah.
And get in touch with those emotions. So It's
You know,
cool.
and I'll tell you what, I'm glad that you got pitched to my show because I wouldn't have watched the show otherwise. It
Yeah.
would have just been another one that I was like, oh no, I'm not watching that. Because you see, like it's pushed pretty heavily on Netflix right now. It's like the day we went to go watch it, it was like the top bar thing, right? And
Yep.
so now they're pushing in the US. Obviously, they saw the success elsewhere. They're like,
Yep.
let's see what we can do as far as more viewers here. But it was a fun experience to watch, and like you were really hooked in and really like, what are you doing? That's the dumbest move ever. Like that's
Yep.
you're like,
Yeah.
what's going on? But obviously, it's a lot easier to judge from the couch than in the
Totally.
stag.
Totally.
So
Totally.
it
Yeah. It's like, the viewer, like the information asymmetry between the viewer and the contestant is not equal. So of course it's like you look at it, you're like, oh, of course this person has the million. I'll tell you what, like the piece that you alluded to at the beginning of like me having Sam pegged as the millionaire in the middle of the game, that was probably my best moment of the game. It looked like I had a great intuition. When I walked out of the house, I wasn't 100% sure that I was right.
yeah
You know, I was
yeah
like, God, I hope I'm right. But if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like an idiot. You know what I mean? We're just guessing to the best of our ability. It just so happened that I got lucky, at the end. I mean, lucky plus a little bit of reasoned intuition, let's say.
yeah, man, you played a good game for sure. So I want to wrap up this interview like I wrap up every single one. But before we get there, how do people find you? How can they connect with you? All that good stuff.
We got a couple things. So right now I'm most active on Instagram. That seems to be like kind of where reality stars find themselves. I'm at C Allen ND for Notre Dame, which is where I went to my undergrad. On all platforms. I'm getting into TikTok, which is a 35-year-old man is like a little scary. I've never been on TikTok before, so I'm figuring that out right now. I'm on X as well, same handle. YouTube, we might be doing some YouTube stuff right now. It's not a very active page. And obviously I have my business website, drinkosended.com.
Awesome. So, guys, go make sure you give him a follow, check him out, all that good stuff, man. So, like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what's been your biggest moment of growth?
Probably the last month, Justin. It's probably a really well-timed question. And for me, the biggest thing I think is I need to approach my life with a little bit more humility, and a little bit more of like a service orientation. One of the things that I've always struggled with is just like, uh, you have like a background like I have, right? Where like I went to Notre Dame and I went to like through the finance world and I went to Wharton and got my MBA and like you kind of like, yeah, like I'm crushing it, right? And I went to this game and like I do think that certain aspects obviously are edited to look a certain way, but like I did actually open myself up to going home through overconfidence. There's no doubt about it. And it's something that I've constantly worked on. So like for me, I've looked at this and said, okay, yeah, a lot of these things are edited for television. A lot of people's comments are going to be negative, but when you're on TV, there is kernels of truth and it is a moment for feedback too. And for me, it's just like remind yourself that the results are in the work. That's it.
Yeah.
Like there is no predestination.
What a great answer, man. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey and your wisdom with the audience, man. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Loved it, Justin. This is awesome. Everybody go watch the show.